Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to 1 Million Cups, Kansas City. Let's grab our coffees and head to our seats. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm Kyle. I'm one of your community organizers. This is John. That's Billy and Nicole. Can you raise your hand if you first time at 1 Million Cups? Awesome. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, they deserve it. So the basic setup here, we'll have an entrepreneur present about their business, and then our expert panel will ask them a few questions, and then you'll have the opportunity to ask questions too. So listen closely, take notes, and be ready to provide feedback. I want to make one announcement up top, and then probably make it a couple more times today as well. Next week's 1 Million Cups, so on August 9th, we'll be at PlexPod Westport Commons. So the old Westport High School down on 39th and Warwick. Next week's 1 Million Cups will be down at PlexPod Westport Commons. The reason being, we are celebrating KC Co-working Day with all of the co-working spaces here in Kansas City. So they're all coming together to hang out at PlexPod Westport Commons next Wednesday, and you should too. We're going to try and set a world record for the largest co-working day ever. So cool. Let us introduce our expert panelists. You guys want to say hello?
I'm Robert Westfall. I'm the CEO of Better Online Training. We design, build, and manage digital learning for companies, schools, and individuals. And I am a recent presenter alumnus, so it's nice to be on this side of the table for once.
My name is Mike Meyer, part of a family business, Meyer Music, here in town. And so I've been a presenter here and done the panel a few times. I'm going to warn you, I got blindsided by the panel this morning, so. Yeah. My questions might not be as awesome. So,
excellent. Thank you both for joining us. Make sure if you haven't already that you download the 1 Million Cups app. That will allow you to check in here, see who else is hanging out, and also provide feedback to both of our entrepreneurs today. Speaking of, let's have a warm welcome to the stage our first entrepreneur, Jennifer Rosenblatt with Music Spoke, which is building the world's largest marketplace for artist-owned sheet music.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Rosenblatt.
And I'm Kurt Connect, and we're excited to be back at 1 Million Cups KC. We're Music Spoke. We're like Etsy for professional composers. Normally, I'm not allowed to talk in front of business people, but she dragged me out this time. I'm a composer. I imagine sounds in my head, and I write those down on pieces of paper, and then those pieces of music get performed all over the world. I was fortunate to get published when I was fairly young, and within about 10 years I had sold about 100,000 copies of pieces of music. Unfortunately, the industry kept 90% of the revenue. They forced me to sign over my copyrights so that I no longer owned or controlled the music that I had written, and they didn't let me know who was purchasing or performing my music.
You were going to say. That's fine.
That's all I was supposed to say.
Okay, go sit down. Oh my gosh, take it with you and turn it off. This is why he doesn't do this. So we built Music Spoke to tackle some of these problems in the music industry. Now, the global music industry is a $43 billion market, and that's a pretty big space, and there are a lot of players in the space. We chose to focus specifically on the billion-dollar sheet music market in the United States. And so we built Music Spoke as a dual-sided marketplace, and we had to pick some place to start. So specifically, we started with choral music. Here's why. There are over 270,000 choirs in the US alone, with 42.6 million singers in those choirs, and every one of those singers needs sheet music. As a marketplace, Music Spoke is actually primarily B2B, because we sell to organizations that have budgets for sheet music. So this includes every educational institution from elementary school through university. It includes church and civic ensembles, and it includes professional performance organizations. And each one of these institutions has a budget for purchasing sheet music that ranges from $500 to $20,000 a year. And our buyers have issues with the traditional publishing industry as well. There can be limited access to new music due to long production cycles. Pieces can actually go out of print, or they can be put on back order for an infinite amount of time. With a digital marketplace, buyers have unlimited access to new music. The music is available instantaneously, right? There's no waiting for 18 months for printing and shipping and warehousing. And it's always available 24/7, whether you download and print it or play it off of your tablets. Our buyers love Music Spoke because they can hear and see the entire score before they purchase it. And then when they do buy it, it's available for immediate digital downloads. In fact, our buyers rave about just how easy we make it for them to find the music they need and purchase it. Now, on the seller side of the marketplace, we have composers. There are over 1 million professional composers registered in the United States. And they compose all sorts of music from choral to band to orchestra. And as Kurt mentioned earlier, composers have issues with the traditional publishing industry because they take copyrights and control away from composers. They only pay them 4 to 10% royalties, and they don't share who's purchasing or performing their music. But with a digital marketplace, composers can retain their copyrights and their control over their original works. They can earn up to 70% of everything they sell, and they can be connected directly with the people who purchase and perform their music. Our composers love Music Spoke because they can maintain their profile and their scores all in one place. And our composers rave about the performances and connections they've made through Music Spoke that would not have otherwise been possible. Now, here's the real value. Composers are great at making beautiful music, but they're artists. And digital sales and marketing and distribution, not their forte. So the real value that Music Spoke provides is that we take care of the business of composing, and this allows composers to get back to making art. Now, as a marketplace, similar to other content creation marketplaces, Music Spoke retains 30% of all transactions, and our average transaction size is $70. Since launching in the summer of 2014, Music Spoke has grown to over 100 composers, nearly 1,000 scores, almost 10,000 buyers on our marketplace. We've sold over 85,000 units of these scores, and our compounded monthly growth rate is consistently between 10 and 15%. So there are some competitors in our space, including some of the more traditional publishers and distributors of sheet music, as well as some newcomers. But nobody is really solving the problem in a complete way like Music Spoke is. Our team consists of myself as CEO. I previously built and sold an award-winning marketing services company. Together, we launched Music Spoke in the EdMotion Accelerator in 2014. Last year, I was part of the Prosper Women Entrepreneurs Accelerator in St. Louis. And this year, I'm a 2017 Pipeline Fellow and part of the Scale Up KC Cohort 6. Now, Kurt, as our Chief Marketing Officer, or sometimes referred to as our Chief Musical Officer, has been a composer, a performer, and a music educator for over 25 years. He's sold 100,000 copies of his music worldwide and knows the industry. Our advisory board consists of founder-level experience from other startups that range from music tech to other marketplaces. So Music Spoke is like Etsy for composers. We're excited about the changes that we're making in this industry, and we're proud to be doing it from right here in Kansas City. Thank you.
I really like this whole concept. As a very, 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 very amateur piano player, I do go online and buy sheet music, and now I feel guilty that I'm stealing money from the composers. But you call it like Etsy, but you mentioned how you're going to handle a lot of the marketing for the composers. So does this eventually become something kind of like the new modern MySpace, where you're, not in a bad way, but I mean where you're going to be doing all the promotion?
Don't call us that.
No, but that's how MySpace
Yeah.
originally was. It was a place for bands to promote. But I mean, you're gonna help
Right.
drive traffic to your site for the composers and hopefully drive the sales for them. So explain to me how the marketing works
Yeah.
for them, and then how they help your marketing.
You bet. So when we first came up with this concept, there were two, and there still are, two very large online distributors of sheet music. And they aggregate all the content from traditional publishers, and they do all of the sales and marketing and drive people to one place. But there was nothing like that out there for self-published music, or what we call artist-owned sheet music. And so what we've done is, by aggregating the artist-owned sheet music all in one place. Composers have their own shop, so they maintain their profiles that they can link to their pages. But when we do marketing, we have an inbound marketing strategy, so we're doing blog posts and social media, and we're driving everybody to Music Spoke. And then our lists will have listicles, right? In fact, we just published one of, for Christmas in July, here are the top 15 pieces to program for Christmas this year. So we're choosing content from different composers that's also providing greater exposure for them. And then we do some traditional marketing as well, because there are music educator conferences there at the national, regional, and state level. So we will go to these conferences, set up a booth as Music Spoke, and when we're there, we're promoting all of our artists at the same time. So again, it increases awareness for artists that may have a regional fan base, but not national or global, and increases exposure for them as well.
So over the last 2 years, since you originally presented here, tell me what the biggest challenge has been. Even though you've had that kind of growth, and that's really good, you're still not at a ton of money for all of the marketing that you're going to have to do at those state, local, and national places.
Right.
So what's the biggest challenge in that and getting the word out? And I know those conferences can become very clustered with stuff and cutting through. What's the strategy to cut through at those?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in the last 2 years, a lot of what we've been figuring out and experimenting with, one is which conferences make sense for us to go to. And some of it has just been experimenting. Earlier this year, we were at the Florida Music Educators Association Conference and then the Texas Music Educators Association Conference. And those were great learning experiences for us because we learned that we don't need to go there right now. Nobody's paying attention to us. And so in March, we were at the National American Choral Directors Association Conference, which is very specific and very niche, and we were a big hit there. So some of it has been experimenting with those conferences and figuring out what do we need to spend money on and what do we need to leave alone for now. Another piece of that has been figuring out really that growth strategy. As a dual-sided marketplace, things take a little bit longer to get going and to build momentum, and are often a little bit harder than if you're just selling the same product over and over again. And so originally we were experimenting with a composer acquisition strategy, but in order to maintain the quality on the platform, we have actually since switched to an influencer conductor acquisition strategy. So that's kind of what we've been testing and playing with in the last 2 years. We feel like we're in a good spot now. We understand the unit economics and the drivers, and we're ready to put the gas pedal and really accelerate that.
So one follow-up question then. Do you have a strategy for retail? Because I know there's a large base of retailers who already have that direct connection into the school you're trying to get to.
Yes.
And is there a plan for that?
Yes. Yes, and in fact, in the past year and a half, we've started working with more and more retailers, and we actually have relationships with one of our competitors, J.W. Pepper, as well as other brick and mortars all over the country. So we have been working with retailers more and more, and we do have a program in place for them. Unfortunately, not all retailers want to work with us because we are not wholesale. We are retail facing, and so we will give them discounts, but we're not giving them 55% off. We still believe that no matter what, the composer should make the most amount of money off of the entire transaction. This $43 billion industry is built on the backs of composers, and they make the least money, and they have the least amount of power in the entire industry. So yes, we've been working with retailers. Not all of them like to work with us. Not all of them want to play with us, but hopefully that will increase in the next year or so too. Yeah.
On the website, you've got sheet music that ranges in price down like $2, $4, $10. So first, how's that pricing set? And secondly, being a digital product, it says it's immediately ready for download. Is it a PDF? And how do you police them buying the proper amount of licenses? I mean, I'd like to think that everybody's going to buy what they're supposed to buy if they have 50 members of their orchestra, but...
Right. Yeah, those are great questions. So one, even though we started in choral music and that's where we're most well known, we have all kinds of scores on there now. So we have orchestra, we have piano, we have woodwind octet, all sorts of things. Our catalog is most full in choral music, and most of our choral scores sell for $2 a piece. So that's kind of where the price hits. And then more complex pieces with more movements, more instruments, and the price goes up from there. But specifically so when you purchase a piece of music, download it, it gets watermarked with the number of copies you're licensed to print. And it is in PDF format. You can either take it and print it, or you can play it off of your tablets, your devices. And the truth is, there's nothing to stop somebody from buying one copy and making 50 copies. But there's nothing to stop somebody from walking into a music store and buying an octavo and taking it to the copier as well. Both things are illegal. But the great thing about Music Spoke is that now there's transparency so that we know who's buying the music and how many copies are being sold. And our composers know. So if they see that somebody made one copy purchase or even 5 copies, and all of a sudden there's a video on YouTube with 50 people in that choir, we can now go back to them and say, we're so glad you enjoyed this music. Here's your invoice for the other 45 copies. Where with traditional publishers who only sold through brick and mortars, Kurt will get a statement at the end of the year, actually in the following year, for all the previous year's music, just a black and white piece of paper with the name of his score and the number of units sold, but he has no idea if that's true. There's no way to verify the accuracy of that. So now at least we have some more safeguards in place and more transparency.
One last thing, so you might have put it on one of the slides already, but in terms of that 1 billion sheet music, what percentage would be the genres that you're focused on out of that?
That's a great question, and one I'm not sure I can answer, actually. The publishing industry, everything is privately held. It's really hard to get data, especially drilled down specific to different genres because of that. We have numbers on number of people in band and orchestra and things like that. And so from there, we're able to extrapolate. But building financial models, I have financial models built out that account for even just achieving 3 to 5% market penetration is great for us.
Well, that's what I was going to say is that at the very beginning, you mentioned how you started in choral and in these things, but it sounds like there's plenty of business to stay in what I'd call the, quote, classical genres as opposed to trying to get into the pop and all the other stuff.
Absolutely.
Because that would just be way too much to deal with. And at that point, then you're dealing with more of a retail thing than more of the business to business.
Right. And there are a lot of people in that recorded music and pop music space. There aren't as many people in the concert music space. And so our plan, once we finish sort of fully filling out this choral catalog, is then to move to band and orchestra. And continue our expansion that way. Yeah.
All right.
Well, last thing I was going to say, and then I'll stop. The site design is great.
Thank you.
You guys are on the right track. You're doing the right things. And I think that finding those different channels, I would tell you that your retail environment may seem like a bit of the nemesis, but you have to remember that there's a whole network of people like us, like me, that are seeing every one of those directors on a weekly basis all year round. And
Right.
so if you can do that and embrace that and find a way for there to be profit on both sides while the composer is still being taken care of, it's a big distribution network for you, for sure.
Right.
So.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, we're going to open up the floor for questions. So if you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll make our way to you. Question in the center?
Hi.
Hi.
Kind of a couple of questions and an observation. First is how well is Music Spoke received among the influencers that you've contacted? What's their perception and kind of feelings about you? And then the marketing story, what kind of marketing story are you telling? Is it based on what you led with? Because that was very well put, very eloquent, and I think really, for me at least, I'm kind of an open source type person, really appealed to me, sidestepping the structures that have controlled content for so long.
Gotcha.
I think that a marketing strategy based on your intro would be really effective for me if I were in that
Gotcha.
position
Thank
to buy.
you. Yeah. I'll answer your second question first. So yeah, we often Support living artists because the dead ones don't need it. That's our big tagline. We also, recognizing that we need the retailers too, so we can't make everybody angry at the same time, but we also are sort of the rebel and bucking the system. So we also often use the hashtag cruelty-free sheet music. We like to say no composers were harmed in the making or selling of the sheet music, but only in appropriate moments. To your first question, as far as influencers, we're actually very well received in the influencer community. So in our world, conductors, music teachers are the ones who actually select the music for their ensembles and then purchase and perform it. So they do the programming. And we have these influencer conductors that get paid to go to different festivals and workshops and clinic choirs all around. In the traditional publishing world, you would have a publication series, and those editors are only making 2 to 3%, and they're the ones going out and finding composers, finding the music, programming it, promoting it. In our world, since our composers are receiving up to 70%, they don't have a problem giving conductors 10% if they're going to promote their music. So it creates a greater revenue stream and more incentive for both conductors and composers to work together. Yeah, thanks.
Hi there. Congratulations, by the way. In a growing business like this, you have to keep track of your expenses. What is your run rate on this kind of a business compared to your overhead of building the site and building all the stuff behind it versus your revenue? And what's your projection for the future? How does that look?
Well, the great news is that as a marketplace, I make money every day. Some days it might be $2, and some days it might be $25,000. I've had those days, actually. And so we don't have, so I spoke before about being B2B, but we're not enterprise software. So we're not ed tech, we're not selling to school districts. There's an 18-month sales cycle. I literally make money every day. And so because of that, and our overhead is very low, right? This is a digital platform, so we upload a score one time, and we can sell it over and over and over again and never touch it again. I actually built the first iteration of the platform myself, and so that keeps costs down as well, right? And you know, we're primarily bootstrapping. We've taken on, up to this point, about $120,000 of investment. But again, because we're a marketplace, we make money every day. You know, we're keeping it lean and bootstrapping so that we can continue our growth. So projections. I mean, I can make up numbers that are amazing, and I have, and they're even based on real data. But we still have to put the hard work into it, right? And so for us, it's more about recruiting those influencers and recruiting those professional composers who are well known in the industry. The more of their inventory we have on our platform, each one of those composers brings their own fan base in, so that increases our buyers and our users exponentially. And so our focus is on that composer and conductor recruitment and growing that way. Yeah.
I have a question on your right.
Jennifer, you mentioned that you grew and sold a business in the past.
I did.
What did you learn back then, perhaps the hard way, that you're applying to your current business?
Do I have another hour for that?
Go for it.
One thing that I learned is that running 2 businesses in startup mode at the same time for 18 months will drive you bonkers, and nobody should do it. Because you don't end up focusing on anything or doing any one thing well. Goodness gracious. I would think my greatest takeaway in general, whether it's from my first business or this one, I think probably the most important thing any business owner can do, or if you're thinking about starting a business, is to listen to your customers, right? Find out what your customers want and then give them that. Don't go build a bunch of stuff that you don't know if it's going to sell or you don't know if anybody will actually use. Go find your customers first. Ask them what they want, ask them what problems they have, figure out how to solve those problems, and then build for that.
I got another one here. We were talking while you were answering another question, and he, you know, how he was talking about, you know, in the retail stores, Have you thought of any way that you can use the musical instrument stores as some sort of like referral partner affiliate type thing where, you know, you could even set up like some kind of tablet inside the store. They can scroll through the music here, buy it, and the store gets a percentage.
Absolutely. And ultimately, like in the bigger vision, I would love to set up a kiosk at every music store. And it would be, you know, Myers Music powered by Music Spoke. And people could come in and do what they do on our website now and listen to the scores and look at the scores, order from there, and then the percentage gets sent directly to them. But in the spirit of keeping it lean, we're solving for our customers' problems first and growing it some more. So in the meantime, we do offer, for those retailers we work with, we do offer them discounts on pieces and options to do digitally licensed scores and versus printed scores and things like that. So yeah, it's in the bigger vision. It's just not in the immediate future.
Question on your left.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
So you mentioned that you've used a lot of local programs, so like Pipeline, Scale Up, and Digital Sandbox. You didn't use Digital Sandbox? Okay, but Pipeline and Scale Up. So how did those programs help move you forward, if they did?
Yeah, and I'm still involved in those particular programs. The previous one was Prosper Women Entrepreneurs down in St. Louis. I think Kansas City has an amazing business and startup community, and there are programs and resources for every type of business and every type of founder at every stage. I think you just have to go out and find them. Not to give a shout out, but I think Casey SourceLink is a great place to start looking up those resources. But really, I think being a founder is sometimes lonely. You don't have a boss to tell you that you've done a great job, and you have to go out and build your own tribe of like-minded individuals. And through these programs, you get to meet other people who might be just as crazy as you, who experience the incredible highs and lows just like you do. And you can find your tribe of entrepreneurs. And having that support in the business community really means a lot because it's hard to do it alone. And most people who try to do it alone, I don't think it works out very well.
Another question on your left.
Oh, gosh.
Your left.
Sorry.
Hi. You mentioned composers are bad marketers. Mm-hmm. Do you offer any tools for these composers to be able to easily embed or widgets or API access for them to be able to put all of your demo video of hear the music, see the music, mm-hmm. purchase the music onto their own websites?
Well, that's a great question. Somebody should build me some APIs for that. Also part of the bigger vision is to have premium, to have premium tools for composers to be able to subscribe to, and those would be premium promotional tools, whether that's having their store on Facebook or on their own website. Right now, a lot of composers just have links from their website to ours. They also have multiple pieces with traditional publishers, so they'll be linking to other websites as well. But yeah, I mean, again, that's also in the down the road bigger vision. How can we have premium tools for composers to help promote themselves? Just like Etsy does with their power sellers, right? They take their power sellers and they give them a whole suite of tools that like the average Etsy seller doesn't have. So yeah.
Question in the center.
Yes, you compared somewhat to Etsy. I had a question being kind of a similar space. As your company grows, what kind of marketing do you have to keep a relationship? I noticed with Etsy, as they get bigger and bigger, they lose a lot of retention just because of how big they've gotten and the relationship they kind of lost because of how big they are.
That's a great question. So, the music community, as large as it is very small, right? The world gets smaller. It's a very close-knit community. And so we are very focused on maintaining those personal relationships. We do Skype calls with our composers to do customer development and things like that. And as we go forward, the larger we grow, we're working on putting together, I have a business advisory board, but also having a composer advisory board so that we have other composers on the committee that will be able to maintain those relationships with the artists that we bring on board as well. And it's crazy. These conferences they're like college reunions, right? People go to these conferences to see the people they graduated with and their friends and things like that. So it really is a very close-knit community, and we hope to keep some of that closeness and that community in real life and bring that online to increase that connection, actually.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, that.
Let's give her a hand. Okay, it's time for our mug club. Who here has been to 10 or more, 10 meetings at mug club? Put your hand up. Okay, now who has not received a mug? Put your hand down. Oh, yeah, this is my first time, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, if you're 10 times and you haven't received a mug, let me just see your hand. Okay, very good. This young lady right here. Let's get her a mug.
Hi. Please tell us your name and why you come into 1 Million Cups.
Okay, my name is Abby. I started coming because my dad made me, but now I actually I enjoy it. I like coming and seeing how different everybody's path is and how they got here. So yeah, that's that.
If you're wondering, I'm the one who made her. That's my daughter.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, we want to know, we want to help you build your business. So who in the audience would need some help finding co-working space or learning about co-working spaces?
Hands back.
By show of hands? There you go, okay. We want to encourage you again to come to the meeting next week at the Westport Commons at the PlexPod meeting. And what we're trying to do is, they're trying to break a world record, so of the most people co-working in one area. So everybody should show up that can. Hard to believe I'm a preacher, isn't it? There you go. Our next speaker is Barry Veneta with LED Rabbit. Barry?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Barry Veneta, and I'm the founder and CEO of BV Systems. And this is Chris Mather. He is my resident athlete and sales and marketing coordinator. Chris ran track and field and cross country for Wichita State and Friends University. So I brought him along with me today. But my background, I've been in the electronics industry for about over 30 years in product reliability, product development, manufacturing, marketing, sales, and even distribution. Excuse me. And so my background spans a lot of the whole development of a product, taking it to market. My daughter runs for Friends University in Wichita. She runs cross country and track and field. And one of her coaches came to her with an idea, and she sent him on to me. He had an idea for a pacing system for athletes, an LED pacing system. And so we talked about it. It seemed like a very, very good idea. And so we did a little bit of market research, talked about it, and then decided to launch this product and the development. And so my journey, like I said, back in November of 2015 is when I started earnestly working on this concept and bringing us together. By January, we had a proof of concept that I could actually, had a little video that we could actually go to coaches and other athletes and show them and say, okay, this is what we're doing, this is the product we're developing, what do you think? And the reaction was overwhelming. They thought, man, this is awesome, this is what we need, you know, we're looking for something like this. And so in July of last year, I jumped off the cliff, I quit my day job, I started funding this development and trying to bring this product to market. And in October of this last year, we actually had a working demo that we could put on the track and show, and I've got a video here in just a second to kind of show you a little bit, but we were able to then take that information and get it out to other coaches and show them what we're doing and really start to build the momentum of this idea and this product. We joined the U.S. Track and Field Cross Country Coaches Association because that was a way for us to get access to that huge community of coaches around the country. And in December, because of that, joining that organization in December, we had an actual booth space at their annual convention to where we could introduce the product and also start to get feedback, real feedback from people that would come by and talk to us. One of the things that we learned was that our MVP that we had at the time was not quite ready. It didn't do all the things that the coaches would really need. So we have kind of taken a step back and went to add some of those features into the product. So that's what we've been doing over the last several months. And we're now at a position to where we're within a few months to having a product to release to the market that will address a lot of those concerns. One of the challenges that we ran into was with patent and IP. And there was actually a company over in Europe that had a patent on pacing athletes using a light source. And so we reached out to that company. We signed an exclusive agreement for all of North America. So we're the only company that has the ability to distribute that product and build that product here in the United States and North America. So that partnership has been created and has been a very strong agreement for us. I will take now here and so this is the actual product in action. And so what this addresses is coaches are always looking for ways to train their athletes better. Training becomes so scientific. There's so many studies on the right way to train and the wrong way to train and how you stress your bodies and stuff. Pacing and interval training is a key part of that. So today coaches use stopwatches and they're yelling out times and they're telling them, where they're at on the track and such. This system actually, they can program this system with a complete workout, intervals, rests, all that kind of stuff. They can put it all in there, and then the athlete just follows the pacer around the track throughout the workout. This allows the coach then to be able to go and focus on actual running forms and other things that the athletes need to work on, rather than yelling out times and such. So, thank you. So we have actually created a pretty broad portfolio that we're rolling out to the market. Not only the pacing system that we have here, a portable version, but we have an actual curb version that would be permanently installed on the track, as well as a speed and agility trainer and a swimming trainer. Those last two are in partnership with this company over in Europe that I mentioned earlier. Our customer base is obviously high schools, colleges. That's our primary target for right now. But we also have, there's military installations that do centers of excellence for training. They've expressed some interest in this product. And also there's private training facilities around the world and around the US. But just the market size, there's over 40,000, between colleges and high schools, there's over 40,000 installations, if you will, or available places to sell this just in the United States, not counting the international market. We have been in discussions with some of the leaders in track equipment manufacturing and distribution, Gill Athletics and UCS. They've expressed a lot of interest in the product that we're developing and want to partner along and help bring this to the market and be our sales and distribution channel. And then from an international footprint, the company Indigo Technologies that we've partnered with, they have distribution over in Europe and Australia and South America and such, that we're tying into an international presence once we get to the point that we're ready for that. Some of the challenges that we've run into, I kind of alluded to earlier, was making sure that we had exactly what the initial product needed to be for the coaches, and that kind of where we thought we were a year ago, we thought we were ready for the market. It basically set us back several months so we could reiterate that and make sure that the product was adaptable. And then from our company standpoint, I've been bootstrapping this company from the beginning, and to do that we've had to use part-time resources, engineering resources, development teams that I know from my past, and not full-time employees because we can't obviously afford that. So that's always a challenge because these people have full-time jobs and they have other commitments, and so it just takes longer to develop products that way. But that's a challenge that we've had to overcome. And then our goal is to get this released by the end of the year, by fourth quarter, and be able to start generating revenue. And I think that's it. And Chris is kind of, while we're talking here, he's sending rabbits down the track just so you can kind of see what's going on.
A great presentation. I spent some time on your website last night to research, and I saw the video, and the first thing that popped in my mind was, this just makes sense. It's such an obvious thing, and this is from a guy who, last time I did a 5K, I got passed by a woman pushing a stroller, so I don't run. But you answered my one question about the patents already. And the reason I'm curious about that is I was doing some research, and there's a product in California called Track Pacer. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so are they infringing on that patent?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so that's something that they'll take care of? Okay.
Yeah, we've already been in contact with them.
All right, good.
And there's another company in North Carolina that's the same thing.
So that'll be the European company will take care of dealing with all that. Okay, so a couple things. You have a time-lapse video on there about installation. It takes about 10 minutes to do a full track. Is installation going to be something you're offering, or is this going to be they take the product and do it themselves?
They take, in the portable version, they take it. It just snaps together. They built, put it on the track. They can disassemble it and put it back in the bags and store it. So it's a self-installation. It's a plug and play. The actual curb, that will also be somewhat of a self-installation, the way we're designing that. It'll be, put on the track, plug it together, hook in the controller, and then you can leave the actual track pieces out.
You mentioned about weather durability and also it can stay out there. What's the life expectancy of something like this, and also like the ballpark on what kind of pricing you're going to do for this?
Yeah, the electronic system, the LEDs are like 50,000 hour type, so they're greater than 10 years. The materials also will be 7 to 10 year type of for outdoor exposure. We are, for the portable system, a 400 meter track installation would be about $10,000. It doubles that when you go to an actual permanent curb. We could sell a 200 meter system for about maybe $6,000 or $5,000. So, and the nice thing about this for high schools specifically who have limited budgets is you don't have to have 400 meters for this to work. You can start with 200 meters or even 100 meters of it, and then you could add on as you have additional funds or budget or sponsors, boosters that step up or whatever.
And that pricing is you've already been getting that vetted from all in there.
Yes, and everybody that we've talked to, that when I say 400 meter system, $10,000, the answer is, yeah, it's about what I thought it would be. I figured it would be around 10,000. So, people that in colleges and stuff, when they put in new tracks, they're spending millions of dollars on new tracks. 20,000, and they're spending, upwards of $15,000 to $18,000 on aluminum curbing that they put out on the track, and that does nothing other than, allow somebody to trip over it. So for $20,000 or $22,000, you get a curb plus a pacing system. Now you've added value to what they're purchasing, and they like that.
See, he took all my questions. Where are you making this? Are you able to do it here? And then the second question, is where's the upgrade once you've sold this to the people one time and you've saturated the market?
Yeah.
Do you have any plans for an app with a recurring revenue model where athletes can tie into the system and see their own feedback on their smartphones after they've run their workouts?
Yes, excellent. So manufacturing, I've been setting this up to where we can do all the final assembly here, actually in Lenexa, Kansas. So a lot of the pieces that we're doing are either locally or regionally sourced. There's only a few pieces that are coming from China. So even though I have a lot of experience with China manufacturing and that's not an issue for me, I want to build this product here in the Kansas City area. I want to use local resources and I want to benefit this community. So that's our goal. And we can, our plan then is to scale up to do that. The assembly and the manufacturing is very simple, the way we've designed it. So we can do that here. Your second question is, yes, our roadmap is such that right now this system is kind of passive as far as you're just following this, this light around the track, and there's no integration, there's no feedback or data collection. Well, that's the next step. So the LED Rabbit 3.0 or 4.0 will have sensors in it that connect with the athlete to measure, heart rate or whatever other, things we want to capture data-wise, and then that information can be stored on the cloud or captured in a workout, so that then the coaches actually have the ability to analyze that data, see, okay, this wasn't the best workout I put together. I want to modify this because I was stressing the athlete too much or whatever. And so now you start to have that ability. We're going to have a cloud-based system to where actually the coaches log in to an account and they can actually put their workouts online or on their account and then sync it to the system so that they don't have to do it from a tablet or a phone or whatever. And then that opens up the ability to then add in other types of, we might come up with a workout or maybe a world record performance model that we model it and then we could sell it to coaches for $1.99 or $5 or something like that. And then they could download that into the system and their athletes could then race against that or whatever. That's been very attractive for some of the very elite athletes, like so we've talked to several Olympic athletes and stuff that they don't have partners that they can train with that can do, that can run a world record, but if they have a system to run it against, then they could see, okay, how far am I, where am I at really, in my training.
So the logical tie-in, it would seem to me, would be Garmin, because they already have, tracking of this stuff. Have you reached out and contacted?
Not yet. We've been, to be honest, we've been focused on getting to this point, and then once we get this in and start, working on that next vision, then yes, conversations with Garmin or others are appropriate.
I got a question about the actual usage. If you are a runner, is this really meant for only on the inside lane, or when a professional or track person, are you looking at the inside of the curve when you're running, even if you're like the 5th or 6th lane, or is it something where you can only really do like one person at a time kind of training?
I'm going to let Chris answer that because he's the resident athlete.
Like you said, if you're 5th or 6th lane, it all comes down to the first lane, because if you're in that 5th or 6th, you're running more than that person in the first lane. But we have it to where it doesn't need to be all in the first lane. If you get more rabbit holes, you can have 400 meters, and you can have it going straight down, and you could have each one doing something different.
Mm-hmm. So you could put multiple ones. You could split the track in half, for example, and have an inside and a middle, and 2 separate groups going. But the system is designed to be able to handle up to 3 individual running groups at any point, and they can be doing different workouts. And so even you see, even though the light will pass the other one, the faster group might come up with to the slower one and go right around them, and as they're continuing to do their workout.
All right, we're going to start with a question over here on the right. If you have a question, just hold up your hand and we will get to you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed your presentation. That was awesome. I'm not currently an athlete, but I was really, the gentleman kind of addressed my first question about what about all the athletes that don't train on a track, like the cross-country kids or, just the regular people that are training for, 5Ks or half marathons or whatever. I was just wondering if there's something, if you thought about like a personal application where they would wear it and then they would either have a light projecting or a pulse, vibration, something along those lines. So I was wondering if you thought about that.
Yes, we have. And somebody else had brought up a question like that at one point. That would be a natural progression for an additional product to the portfolio, is some way, and I don't know how to do this yet, but some way to have a dynamically projected image or whatever as a pacer, that it's a personal device. I don't know how to do that, but I know people who can think about that.
All right, question on your left.
I love the green, but have you guys considered like an RGB setup so you could have multiple colors for possibly like multiple runners going at the same time and they could just like...
That's the first time I've ever gotten that question. I get that question all the time. And the answer is, yes, I considered it for about a minute. And the reason it's not viable, and it's the reason some of these other companies out there are inferior, is an RGB LED, the intensity is dramatically less, and you won't be able to see it outside. Indoors, yes, you could do that indoors all day long and get away with that. But you take that outdoors, the sun fades it out and you can't see it. So our system is designed with higher brightness LEDs, and that's my background. So the key is this has to be able to be seen outside today in a sunny day with the sun shining on it. And even with this, we have challenges. So we still need to make some tweaks on diffusion and how much the tube is restricting light. That trade-off to get that nice glow of the the rabbit versus hot spots of LEDs. So there's a lot of technology that goes into determining that question. And so we've decided that we can't do we could do individual colored LEDs in there, but then the cost just triples. So it's a cost-performance trade-off.
Cool, thank you.
You bet, thanks.
Question in the back?
Hi, having been a track and field athlete in high school and knowing that teenagers aren't always the most cautious with expensive equipment, and
Yes.
sometimes they're ornery, and I could see a piece of that track going into someone's backpack. What are you going to do for high schools that maybe one little piece gets broken or a piece gets stolen? How are you going to help them get that equipment replaced so that they have a working track in a quick fashion?
Yeah, so these pieces, they will be manufactured and sold in 4-meter long pieces, so they won't really be able to stick them in a backpack and carry them away. However, yeah, if somebody breaks an end or whatever, we're going to replace it. It's the right thing to do, and so we're going to provide a warranty on this that is significant. That unless you can tell that it was really damaged by whatever on purpose, yeah, the right thing to do is just replace out, and we can send out a new section and get the old one back, and we can do some analysis and stuff. But it's designed to be, if they step on it or whatever, it's not going to matter. So.
Follow-up question to that. If one is broken, is the technology smart enough for it to skip ahead and keep going? Or if it's broken, does it just stop?
Now, it depends on what's broken, but it will continue on. And the nice thing about the way the system is designed is if there's a glitch in the electronics throughout there, we're updating this so fast, so many times a second, that glitch gets corrected immediately. And so it goes on. So you really don't even know. And even if we had a problem where one of the rabbits was dead and just wouldn't come on, yeah, that's not good, but it's not gonna, visually as you're running, you're probably not even gonna notice that is out. And the track would continue to function like normal.
Then I have a question over here.
how can you handle coaches that have more than 3 people they want to train? How you gonna get more than 3 groups? You got a group, you got 15 people on the cross country team, on the track team. You want them all to use the rabbit. How are you going to work that when you can just do 3 right now?
Well, normally those groups are smaller groups. Maybe there might be 4 or 5 in a group, so rather than just individual athletes. So typically, they would be able to break those up into, smaller groups. Yeah, it's not necessarily a limitation. We could do more. It's just then it's a power issue. If we've got 15 rabbits out there running, that's a power drain on the system, and we've got to make sure that we can handle something like that. So,
Question in the center.
Coming at as a past coach, thinking about money.
Mm-hmm.
When I get a new track, my school district spends a ton of money. Are you in with the track builders? Because that's when my school district will put me $10,000, $20,000.
Yeah.
Other times they're not going to put me that money.
Right.
And then my other question to you is, how are you interacting with it? How's it communicating? And then can I change that on the fly? I see something, I want to see something, or am I setting it and then I've got to go back to a computer and reset it? And then, am I building a practice before practice, or can I change my practice on the fly?
Yes. Okay, so I'll answer your question. I'll let Chris take the second one. So some of those partners we talked about, Gill and UCS, those are the folks that are working with colleges and high schools every day, and they know the guys that are putting in new tracks and such. So that's really our avenue to make sure that we're tied in properly with that, with that sales cycle, if you will. So yes. And then as far as
I'm using the tablet right now. We have an IP address. You can, use your tablet. You can use your smartphone. You can, as a coach's perspective, you can program it ahead of time, and then you have the rabbit hole already. You come to the track, and you can start it.
But you can change on the fly. You
Yeah.
can change. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was doing right here. I had it 1, 2, and 3, and then I changed it to 2, 2, 2 for each group. So.
A follow-up question to that. So what do these workouts actually look like, and how do they fit into like a larger training program?
Yeah, Chris, would you?
Okay.
Which one of your typical workouts?
So like 12 400s at 70 with like a minute break or something. 200s, 12 200s at 30 with 30-second rest.
Yeah, so the coach would actually take that information. He'd program that into a workout. 400, 70 seconds, rest this, another 400, whatever. And program all that into what he calls today's workout. He comes down to the track, he goes, okay, guys, line up, let's go, hits go. It takes off, and they follow. And it'll step through each thing as it goes.
Kid gets hurt, something happens, can I pause that?
Yes.
And then run.
Yeah. There was somebody in the,
I have a question here.
Okay, then there's one guy in the back too. He's raised a couple times.
Well, it looks like I'm jumping in here, sorry. I'm right here. So electronics guy, I'm just interested in a normal track setup, how often do you have to inject power? Are you only injecting power once, or, wow.
At the rabbit hole. We call it the rabbit hole. I've said that a couple times. But the rabbit hole is our control unit, and we have a battery pack in there, and that's where the power comes from. And so far, that's all we need.
Final question right here. When you made the exclusive with the company in Europe,
yes.
Now, did that cost you anything?
It did.
Okay, so up front you do that, and then is there a licensing?
Yeah,
agreement
then
after that?
I'll pay them a license fee on every unit I sell.
Great.
And so, and likewise, like I said, they've got some products that we're bringing here that we're going to market. So, from that standpoint, it's been a very, very good partnership. So.
All right, last question we have time for. What can we as a community do for you?
So one of the things I would love to hear, if anybody has other ideas for funding options. We've done a little bit of talking with other folks and stuff, but anything that anybody has suggestions along that, because we're really wanting to take this and accelerate this, get the resources in-house and really start to build this. So anything anybody has, I would love to talk to you about it. Engineering resources. And I was thinking about this morning. I would call this vision implementers instead of engineering resources. But we have visions of what this product we want to do. But the community here is full of great engineers from mechanical and software and firmware, and we would love to get connected with you folks, especially if anybody's interested and eventually maybe coming on board. We'd love to talk. And then there's some former coaches in here. There was some former athletes. You guys know somebody who runs or somebody who coaches somebody who runs. Get the word out. Just tell them about us. That's all we're trying to do. We just want to make sure that the LED Rabbit is as notable as the Nike swoosh in some point in time. So.
All right, let's
Thank
give
you.
LED Rabbit a hand. Okay, so next week, do not come here. You'll be here by yourself. We're going to be at PlexPod Westport Commons. Say that 5 times fast. So we'll see you over there. It's co-working week, so PlexPod Westport Commons. Not here, there. Thanks so much for coming. If you had some questions that you didn't get to ask, I'm sure they'll be hanging out around back if you want to ask them personally. Thanks, have a good day.